All right, you guys, since I am gone, our class will be online. So if you see, there's going to be a legal and ethical presentation, which I'll start on in a minute. But then there is also this online portion to do, and I will let you know what that is right now. Okay, so you're going to have to read this call to action above there and then answer these questions. And that's pretty much the long and short of it. Whoops. That is what you need to do there. And I'll go back to it in a moment, but I want to get through this as well. Okay, so in the state of Wisconsin, there's the State Nurse Practice Act, and there's a link for it on Moodle where you can take a look at it, but that is what defines our scope and standard of practice. That's what we are held to, what is in there. We have 3 categories. There's the RN, registered nurse. What does this do? Ooh, a laser. Right? Okay. So anyways, there's the registered nurse, and then there is an LVN or LPN, and then there's the APN, so those are our nurse practitioners. The nurse practice sets the educational and exam requirements, and it defines what we can and can't do. Every state has their own, but this is what we're legally bound to, what it says. Then there's the State Board of Nursing that enforces the Nurse Practice Act, and their job is to protect the public, and each state has one. And then there's the National Council, and each the state has a representative on the National Council, and it just ensures that we're recording that things that have happened with people's license. Here it's on the internet, it's public. This is the Multi-State Licensure Compact, and this is not the latest and greatest because there's a new compact, but for your purposes, you just need to know we have one. Oh, and that just means that nurses can cross the boundaries and go to these states and practice with a multi-state license. So we only have to get our licensure in one state, and we can go to various states to practice. So we need to keep up with the changes of the Practice Act, which isn't hard because it's a huge deal if they're going to open up the act. Now the following are just terms, definitions of legal terms. Negligence is like malpractice for people who don't have a license, because here our nurses are licensed. So sometimes you'll hear this called professional negligence as well. And then this is, I'm going to try to move that, but you probably can see it. We're held to what a person with equal education and experience would do. Reasonable and prudent is just average. It's not like we're held to above average care. We just have to make sure we follow the standards of practice. Lucy, lay down. It's my dog. She's trying to get off the bed. In order to prove liability or say that we are liable for that we've done something, in the state of Wisconsin, a person has to prove all of these things. That we owed a duty to the patient, we breached that duty, we knew something bad would happen, we caused it to happen, there was injury and damages. So duty is the standard of care. We didn't follow the policies and procedures set by the American Nurses Association or our organization. And we can only say that we failed to do our duty if we are in our place of employment and we are on duty. A breach of duty is obviously a failure to meet the standard of care. Remember that reasonable and prudent is what an average person would do. Foreseeable harm, we have to know ahead of time that failure to meet that standard of care could cause the patient harm. They have to prove that there's a direct relationship between what the nurse did or didn't do that caused harm. And it can't be a psychological injury or something that comes and goes. It has to be physical. And financial harm, proving damages is important because the injury to the patient is not intentional. Hush! Sorry, my dog's whining. Hush! So there's personal liability, what you're liable to. Vicarious liability is basically in every lawsuit here. If you're a manager and someone sues, you're named in every lawsuit. Indemnification allows that, say you did something at a hospital and the hospital got sued. Indemnification allows the institution to turn around and sue you to get their money back. There's corporate liability, saying that the corporation is liable because of their hiring and firing practices, saying that the environment was safe, and saying that the staff is competent. And these are different ways that a manager could be sued for malpractice. Here, if you get fired, the only thing that a company can say is whether or not you're rehirable, unless you have an addiction problem, violent behavior, or gross incompetence. Here's some other causes. These are different laws that we have to report as nurses in the state. We have to report to the state if you have this chancroid, chlamydia, gonorrhea, pelvic inflammatory disease, syphilis, or HIV. We have to report suspected elder abuse or suspected child abuse. And here are the different laws. You can file a complaint against a physician here, at this website, or nurses here. Here's some other legal responsibilities, product liability, and different ways to reduce your risk. Informed consent is pretty important. You have to be of age or an emancipated minor, so 18, or you have to be competent. So if you're elderly or you had an accident of some sort, if you're no longer competent, your POA would have to. Has to be voluntary. We can't coerce somebody or deceive somebody into giving their consent to something. And we have to be able to comprehend it. There has to be significant information, and it has to be at a level that everyone can understand. So here's the things that are required for informed consent. You have to explain what it is, the risks and the benefits, what alternatives there are, and then this idea that a person can withdraw their consent at any time. Hush! As nurses here, all we are doing is witnessing the signature. The job of obtaining informed consent is the physician's. Nurses just say, yes, the patient voluntarily signed for this. This is some different things about research, and that we have international review boards to protect patients if they're the subject of research. So if you want to do research, you have to submit something to this review board, and they yay or nay whether or not you can do it. And then here's some different definitions. This is privacy. People have the right to be protected against intrusion. This is a law here, the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, that just says that their confidentiality will be maintained. There's other components to it, but that's all you need to know. Confidentiality, this is that their medical record is private. They can review and request copies. We can't give their family information. And then I talked about incident reports, that they're part of the internal documentation. They should not be made part of the patient record. And then obviously you can't post anything on social media related to patients. Here's a copy of an incident report. The risk manager is there to reduce the financial loss to the institution. They review incident reports and they update any policies and procedures. There's some different employment laws that were enacted here. These are some different definitions about some different legal terms. These are civil action, not criminal action, and their definitions. The Patient Self-Determination Act says that the patient has the right to determine what happens in their care, and that came in with advance directives. Advance directives are really important here because they let people know what you want should you no longer be able to speak to yourself. They are a legal document, and we highly encourage people to have both a financial and a power of attorney for health care should they not be able to speak for themselves. The Good Samaritan law covers us if we come up upon an accident and we help somebody. It's only for emergencies, and that our licensure is a privilege and it's not a right. Here's some common reasons for getting your license suspended, why patient advocacy is so important. And then the Code of Ethics. You guys said you had one. This is ours. It's not a legal document, but it sets the standard for ethical practice. Here are some definitions. Well, this is moral distress. You don't have to worry about that. But here's some of our ethical frameworks that we have, and the principles within our Code of Ethics. Autonomy, that's self-determination, being able to choose. Beneficence, promoting good. Non-maleficence, doing no harm. Paternalism, it's just like the name implies, parent. One individual assumes the right to make decisions for another. Utility, the good of many outweighs the wants or needs of an individual. Sometimes you would see that in vaccines. Justice, veracity, telling the truth. Fidelity, keeping your promise. Confidentiality, keeping information private. Respect for others. And there's committees in our hospital. I used to sit on an ethics committee where if we were experiencing ethical conflict or a dilemma, people get together and we talk about it, we make decisions. Sometimes families request them, sometimes doctors request them. I had an incident where I had a man who was young, but he had liver disease from alcoholism, and he was dying because of it. He wouldn't give up drinking, so he wasn't a candidate for a transplant. And so his mother just said, well, when he goes unconscious, I'll make him a DNR. And the physician was okay with that, but that's a little sketchy because we knew he didn't want that, even though we couldn't save him. So he requested an ethics committee because then he had the backing of the hospital in his decision to make him a DNR. So I have a few minutes left because this is only going to be 15 minutes. So I'm going to... All right, I'm going to upload some instructions on this legal and ethical short answer assessment that's due before our class on July 3rd. Here's where you upload it, but this video will be here, probably right here or above this. I'll put the video, and then the scenario and the questions you need to answer and the directions will all be in here. And then you need to do this. Here's your ANA call to action. You'll need this to do the forum, okay? And then remember, the following week, we are going to have to, your quality presentation will be due. So we'll do those, and then we'll do physical planning. Don't worry about this essay. You'll do career planning online. I think this is just here because I'm in this record mode, but it'll be there. And then our final week is assessment 2. And all of this can be found in the syllabus that I had out when we first started. Scroll through before I run. Oh, there it was. Okay, so this is online. You answer the questions. Those are due, and the presentations. And then I'll present physical planning. You'll do career planning online, and then your final week is just the assessment. All right, that's it, guys. Thanks. Bye.